E-commerce Gold is brought to you by Rewind. Accidents happen. Maybe you installed an app and it messed up your theme, or a store collaborator deleted product images by mistake. It's a common myth that Shopify has a backup that you can use when something goes wrong with your store. The fact is they don't. That's untrue. That myth is busted. So what do? You use Rewind to equip your Shopify store with automated backups. Rewind should be the first app you install to protect your store against human error, misbehaving apps, or collaborators gone bad. It's like having your very own magic undo button. It's trusted by over 100,000 businesses, from side hustles to the biggest online retailers like Nix, Lord & Taylor, and Moomin. It's even a Shopify Plus certified app. Best of all, visit rewind.com/e-commerce gold and get your first month for absolutely nothing, free on us. The Ecom Gold podcast has partnered with Clearco to provide you with financial tools to grow your business without having to give away equity. Clearco is the world's largest e-commerce investor and growth platform, giving founders the financial tools, capital, and network they need to grow. Plug in your Shopify store and your loan could be agreed within just 24 hours. Visit clear.co/partner/Vixxr, VIXXR, for exclusive deals, £1,000 off your first loan as a podcast listener, and more information. This show is brought to you in collaboration with Vixxxr, a leading Shopify agency with a mission to grow and migrate brands to Shopify Plus. They've worked with some of the world's largest brands and can help you level up your e-commerce performance. Visit Vixxr.com, VIXXR.com for more information. Katie, thank you so much for joining us on the Ecom Gold podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. I was just explaining, I'm a little bit hot in this hat. I wish I hadn't chosen to wear it in every single episode. It's the summer
You have
here
to stick with it now.
I got to stick with it. Yeah. So can you give us an overview of your company and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my company is called Aila. We are a better for you active nutrition brand based out of the US. We focus really in pre-workout energy right now. So we make a unique formulation entirely from plant-based ingredients and superfoods to be kind of a natural, more holistic alternative to some of the pre-workouts on the market here. My background, in addition to I spent about 10 years in advertising and media, but I was also a personal trainer, still am, but not doing a ton of it at the moment with the company growing. But, in my time, I've always been into the fitness scene. I was an athlete in high school. Once I got to college, was playing like kind of club sports there and getting to the gym every day. And after college, spent most of my career in LA and then New York. So it was really kind of ingrained in the boutique fitness world, which inspired me to get certified to teach. I was teaching like some boxing HIIT classes and then working with clients one-on-one. And the idea kind of came to me personally and was also sort of reinforced by like a lot of women that I was training at the time that were, we were having like a 7 a.m. session and I was getting a lot of questions about what do you use? Do you drink coffee before you come here? Like, how do you focus? How do you get the most out of your routine? Is there anything you'd recommend? And I never had a good answer to that question. I've lived across the GNC now for like 7 years. And every time I walk in there, I walk right out because it just never, from a marketing and brand perspective, it never felt like it was very welcoming to a fitness consumer like me. It's pretty much all marketed to athletes, bodybuilding, CrossFit community, which is all fine, but there's become such a broader spectrum of the fitness consumer. And not to mention the ingredient levels of like some of the not so great stuff that's found in some of the formulas here. So I really wanted to make not only a better for you option or more holistic option, but something that felt a little bit more inviting for the other type of fitness consumer that's maybe not training to enter any competitions or anything. They just, want to be a bit more focused, want to have more endurance, want to get that like dialed in feeling at the gym. I mean, I know you're into the fitness scene too. And I've had those days, maybe you have too, where you get there and you're like, I'm not really here. I'm just like, brain is elsewhere. So that was kind of the idea behind the company, is to just make it a bit more approachable and definitely a lot better for
Yeah, I had one of those days today, exactly that day, just
you.
really
Just
having
don't
to
even remember
slug
being
through
there.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm a morning person. I
same.
can't train in the evenings anymore, and if I don't get my morning workout in, um, yeah, I just have a bad day. But today I
Same.
really had to push through. But yeah, no, it was it's interesting. Where did the name come from? It's quite an interesting name. Does it have any meaning behind it?
Yeah, so it's a Scottish Gaelic word, in the feminine, and it means from the strong place,
Very cool.
which I thought
Very
was
cool.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to find that?
So we actually we had a different name when we first started, called Bia, which we got into a bit of a trademark issue because there is like one of my biggest early mistakes. We picked the name. Bia is actually, it's a Greek goddess of, I think, it's like of earth or strength or something like that. I don't even remember now because it's been flushed out of my mind. But you kind of like check your, when you're picking a name for a business, you know, you do like a, ideally you have a lawyer to do a run through for you of like who has what. And at the time, Bia did not have you know, supplements selected. There was like a nutrition bar company or whatever, and I was like, that's fine. We're not getting into food necessarily. And 6 months later, they just kind of like tacked that on to their trademark for the name. So we had to change it pretty quickly. So Bia took me a lot longer than Aila did. Aila was actually kind of like a, oh shit, you just changed the name pretty
I really
quickly.
like it, and I understand that entirely as well, because it's so, one of the first things you come up with when you're thinking of a brand is obviously the name, because it's just the first thing you think of the product, so you think of the market, and then you think of the name, and there's just so few names remaining, like
Yeah,
especially ones that mean anything. It just, in the UK we have a service where you can actually look it up for free, and you can see what trademarks there are against certain names. Um,
yeah,
and God, it's just impossible to find, you know, really anything that isn't abstract. And then you get into that realm, don't you, of going, right, well, this is what my brand means, this is what it summarizes. And then you said, I think, old Scottish Gaelic. I mean, like, where do you even begin to find those things? Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's such a process to come up with something that's going to fit the brand, that is this right? And then you get it and you're excited and you check and it's got a trademark against it and you're back to square one. And it's just that,
really.
I think so many people underestimate that process. And I think you you obviously got burnt because you probably fell in love with that name initially and then had it
Yes.
taken away from you, but ultimately ended up in a good place. So that's all that really matters, I guess. And actually, it's interesting as well. A lot of sports people do gravitate towards the Greek gods. Nike, obviously, being a Greek god. Hera is a brand over here that was a Greek god. I even have a Greek goddess tattooed on my arm, which I got when I was about 16 in a haircut place.
Love it.
And yeah, actually, it's a Sophia, which is the Greek goddess of women's wisdom. Didn't know
Mm.
that at the time. I had a few beers, so
Now
you
you
know,
do.
now I definitely do. So yeah, that
That's
went down pretty
amazing.
well. So okay, so you're obviously passionate about fitness, and you are living in that world. I want to understand, because there are a lot of people who are doing the thing they're passionate about, and I don't know what it is, you know, for you guys, but over here, personal trainers, unless you're really up there in the top 1%, or you have some kind of one-to-many digital product like a selling plan and you've got thousands of followers, it's quite difficult to make a living from doing that. So I do see that, you know, often I think it's just the way fitness people are maybe wired, is they're quite hungry, they're quite motivated. So it seems like quite a natural fit to move into some kind of business ownership. So how long was it before you sort of thought, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to build a product? Was it something that's always been in the back of your mind? Did you just see the gap in the market? Like, can you just talk to us a bit about how you actually went from where you were to actually starting this project?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too about like the competition, but the sort of like entrepreneurial spirit of it all, I guess. I was working my advertising job, um, starting to teach classes and train people and like thinking about Ayla all at the same time. My fiance at the time, currently now, is was taking things like, I don't know if you've heard of C4 or like some of these other like really intense pre-workouts, and I was trying some of his and like starting to try other things, and didn't like the itchy feeling, didn't like the I'm, a coffee drinker by nature. I love the ritual of it. And I didn't like that I couldn't have both because it was just way too much caffeine for me. So it was kind of like all at once. I was like doing my marketing advertising full-time job, starting to train people and starting to, first steps was like thinking about a formula and ordering ingredients myself off of Amazon, trying stuff in my kitchen.
Wow. What kind of budget? So what kind of budgets did you have allocated for this? Did you just go? Did you pre-plan it? I guess is the question, or did you
Yeah,
just go right? What's the first step?
I did not pre-plan it. I'll be honest. I like the first steps was like, I don't have a formulation background, so I was kind of, doing my own research. I've taken some courses in fitness nutrition and was reading a lot up about superfoods. So I was, the first step was like, I'm just going to order some of these powders off of Amazon, some of the superfood powders and vitamin powders, and just play around and see what I can come up with. Um, so at that point, I wasn't, even committed to like it becoming a thing. So I didn't really have a budget for it at the time. I was just, buying stuff and trying things out and having my friends try it.
And did that work? You got these ingredients. You're creating a potion lab in your kitchen. Did that actually turn into something you're like, oh, hang on, this could be a product?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I did a lot of, like tweaking and trying different things. And once I got something that I liked and I found I was like going back to every day, then, I was sharing it with people and getting their feedback early and was like, okay, maybe this can be something. I mean, my next step after that was, I was fortunate enough to, I joined some like CPG Facebook groups or something, and I think I posted like, hey, I have this like idea and thing that is very much like being pieced together in my kitchen, and like I would love to work with somebody with a formulation background or chemistry background, whatever. I don't think I even knew what I was looking for at the time. To like work this out for me in terms of like ingredient levels and potency and like how much of what needs to be in there and all of that. So that was kind of my next step, was getting linked up with someone like that once I felt like I had something.
Rewind that for a second. So when you were making these concoctions, what were you optimizing for? Were you optimizing for flavor, feeling, all of the above? And did you at that point in the back of your mind have the end user in mind? Well, actually, first, can you clarify who your target demographic is?
Yeah, so our customer base is mostly women. I would say like millennial, a little bit of Gen Z. The age group is kind of like pretty wide from what I've seen, and people using it for different reasons. But I was looking to optimize for other customers like me, and some of my friends that had tried the product, of like, we're all pretty active, like I hate to call us gym rats, but like we're like very into the scene and like trying all the new things and new classes and new workouts and everything. And but are also, not, we're label scrutinizers. We, pay attention to, like, it would seem silly for me, who was like tries to follow a majority of a plant-based diet at the time, to be like drinking a Red Bull. Like it didn't feel like it was in line with um, what I wanted to put in my body. So I kind of got a similar sentiment from other women like me that were like, I want something for the gym. I do want to enhance energy, focus, endurance, something for recovery, but I just don't feel good about putting, and I should say, like, everything is pretty much okay in moderation, but a lot of the pre-workout formulas here, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but there's a warning label on the back of like all of them that says don't use this for more than 3 weeks consecutively. And it's like, well, how do you commit to a product you love if you have to stop using it? So that was kind of something too that I was looking at, like, what is safer?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I've been using pre-workout. I actually don't use pre-workout anymore. I just use
Mm,
coffee. That's kind of enough
yeah.
for me now. But actually, probably because, I mean, the main thing is I'm a scaredy cat of the crash. I get really affected by pre-workout
And
crashes.
yeah.
Coffee, not so much. If because I drink so much of it, I think. But But yeah, pre-workout crashes, energy drink crashes, they hit me hard. But when I was taking pre-workout, I remember when we went to the gym every day with my friends, we'd sort of be going, "Oh, have you tried this one? Have you tried this one?" But what we were chasing was a bigger punch in the face, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's not dissimilar to kind of drugs, I guess. It's, in terms of, you just want the next biggest best hit of pre-workout, and that's what we got. And we got to the one which was,
yep.
and it just came out, and it literally got made illegal within about a month of it coming out, because
It
people are
might still
dying
be
from it
legal
over here.
here or something.
Yeah, I think it is, which is
I've heard of that
madness.
one.
Yeah. So I mean, and that is, I don't, we were too young. I think we weren't educated about what we were putting into our body. We had no idea what was in there. And that's
Yeah,
kind of put me off. It's really put me off. So I think, the product that you've come up with organically really does address that. And I cannot think of one brand in the UK, at least, that is targeting that demographic. And when I think about even my partner, she does a lot of yoga. She used to train with me. And she would occasionally have an energy drink or something. But you're right, she wanted something, but she didn't want to blow her head off.
yeah,
So it kind of feels like a good fit for that market,
yeah.
which is awesome.
What you're saying too, that like I've talked to a lot of just like other men in fitness here too about like their experience with pre-work. I mean, all over the map, we try to get as much feedback as possible, but there's a vast difference between like the core pre-workout user here, who's usually male, like usually into more like body, maybe not bodybuilding, but heavy lifting, CrossFit, like, and they seek out like what you just said, like the punch in the face. Like they want that. There's like a phrase of like, well, how hard does it hit? Like that's like how pre-workout is referred to here. Um, and I don't want that. Like that's never, it's certainly, so it's been an interesting experience of like figuring out how to remarket something like pre-workout, which is why we landed on pre-workout alternative, um, to an audience that doesn't want to be punched in the face by what they drink. They just want like a calm, alert energy and to feel better. And it's just a different feeling that we're optimizing for. So I would say, our product is, we don't try to switch the core pre-workout consumer over to our stuff. I hope to, but it's a bit different of an experience.
Yeah, well, we'll get into the market and addressable market in a minute, I guess. But just to go right the way back to your Facebooking groups. So there is a lot of power, I think, in communities of people, but it seems like a bit of a jump or a leap of faith for you to say, can a qualified sports nutritionist slash the food and beverage connoisseur help me make my powder? How did you convince someone to jump on board? Did someone jump on board at that point?
Yeah, I got connected with someone. It was kind of like in like perfect timing because they were actually working for a not a nutrition company, but like a food and beverage company where they were head of formulation there, and they were entertaining the idea of going off on their own and kind of spinning off their own consulting business. So this person kind of worked with me as a favor and to kind of like help build their portfolio. I don't know that I don't think she ended up actually doing that business. I think she went and worked somewhere else, but it was kind of like a right place, right time. That, she had a lab here in New York and I was able to go and meet with her and work through stuff.
Oh, brilliant. So you actually got connected. So just a bit of good timing, but how long did it take to actually make that connection? Do you remember?
Um, I think it probably took, like, after I had the original idea, probably like 6 or 8 months,
Wow.
something like
Okay.
that.
So you were persistent. You
Yeah,
didn't drop
yeah.
it. You were persistent in finding the right person. And did you try any other people, or was it just her at that
Just
point?
her. Yeah, that was it was the best fit that I found. And I was still kind of like, at that point, I in that time frame was looking at manufacturers and suppliers and things like that before I got matched up with her. And then she actually kind of helped that whole process once we were able to meet.
So can we dig into that a little bit, as much as
Sure.
you want to give away? So what,
Yeah.
when you went to meet this person, um, and you presumably bought a sandwich bag full of powder with you, um, what was that like? Why? Because I assume at that point you didn't have much experience. And did you just sort of say, this is what I want? And was there much of a change from what you made in your kitchen to what you ended up with at the end of that process? Can you just give us an insight into like that relationship?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I did like bring all of my stuff, and when I got there with my bags of powder off Amazon, she was like, "Okay, we're not going to use any of this as your actual supply, but like, it's a good starting point." I was like, "Okay." So yeah, was just, at the time we only had our first formula, which is a matcha green tea base. So I was like, I really like the benefits of using caffeine and matcha, like a green tea source versus something from coffee. I love coffee, but I do find that I have a much like smoother, less jittery crash when I drink matcha. So I knew that I wanted that to be the base. And then I had some other superfoods and things had bought that I was using to kind of fill the endurance benefit, vitamins for focus benefit, and some other ingredients for a recovery piece. And she like thought I was kind of impressed with myself. She was like, "This like is good the way that you have it. Like it makes sense. I would maybe tweak this, make this a bit more, take this ingredient down. You might want to like add this." It was very like conversational, and then um, we just tested out different things in her lab, and mixing it with water and tasting it. Um, and then after that, there was, a few more meetings of like, she was kind enough to kind of direct me to suppliers, ingredient suppliers in the US, that would obviously provide stuff to us in bulk, and then kind of started the manufacturing search.
So at that point, then, just before you got into manufacturing and suppliers, other than your time, what kind of investment are we talking about from a monetary perspective to get to that point of just before going to look for suppliers?
Yeah, I don't think I had invested very much at that point. Really just like I had been making a lot of calls to manufacturers. I had bought some stuff online. I mean, on Amazon, I think I probably spent a couple $100, doing it that way. Um, yeah, that was kind of it at that point.
And what was going on while you were doing all of this tasting and building out the flavor profiles and the product? You're probably engaging your advertising background and bringing some of that into building the brand and building some of the assets there. Was that going on at the same time?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we kind of launched like, just like putting the product out there. I didn't have a big funded, launch where we were doing a lot of advertising. It was very much word of mouth. So I was kind of getting that started as we were doing the manufacturing search.
And who did all the branding and the logo and all of those? Did you outsource that or did you do it yourself?
Yeah, I outsourced it. A friend of mine who's a designer did all of our packaging and logo, and um, helped with like our, having a brand guide built of like our colors and fonts and what to do and what not to do and tone of voice and all of that. I worked with someone on.
Amazing. So when was the first sort of gulp moment when you thought, oh, I've got to get some money and put it in here, or actually I've got to commit here? Was it when you first went out and did some orders with suppliers?
Yes, yeah. That I kind of knew, it's interesting now looking back because it was my first business. I didn't know anything about building a business at the time other than what I had asked of people and learned. And the idea of like raising money beforehand hadn't even occurred to me because in my head, I'm like, well, I don't have a business yet. So how would anybody give me money for this? Come to find out, many people raise millions and millions without having a product. So knowledge for later. But yeah, I just kind of was like, it was understood to me that I would, bootstrap and invest in this myself from the
Okay.
start.
So You said you got some introductions, and some people do struggle, even in the US and in the UK, with finding manufacturers. Now, I know the
Mm.
sports supplement space is, um, I would say, more geared up to be able to work with lower MOQs because there's quite a lot of innovation in the space. And but what was your experience? Was it quite smooth? Did you have some issues?
It was not smooth, and I wouldn't even venture to say that it's smooth yet. It is definitely very hard. It was interesting for me because I like in advertising, I was in sales, and you know, from having a sales background, anyone that presented me with like money when I was in a sales role to do something, it was like, okay, this is going to be the transaction. So that's kind of the thing I was used to is if I go to this manufacturer and say I have this, they're just going to accept me because why would they not? And it's very much not that process at all. Especially being in a small brand and an emerging brand, and with how big the supplement and sports nutrition world is, you really kind of have to woo these sort of manufacturers and co-packers on your vision and what the company will be, not what it is at the time. So that's something I didn't really know, and was kind of like, it was a little bit of a rude awakening for me when we were getting like turned down by manufacturers. I was like, I don't understand. I'm gonna pay. Like what? Like why does anyone want to work with us? And then as I started to learn more, from people in the industry and just asking around, it was kind of like, oh, yeah, no one has to work with you. So you really need to like sell them on what you're building and why it's different and why they should take a chance on you, or why they should give you that lower MOQ to start with, because you're projecting XYZ in the next year or two. Um, so that was tough. But we got lucky in finding a manufacturer that we've been with that kind of worked with us on a lower order in the beginning.
Do you remember how many you had to go through roughly to get to the
Mm,
one that you got?
I think it was probably 25, 25
Wow,
or 30.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what
There
were you
was,
sending them? Like, what was your process? Was it just like a cold email? Did you pick up the phone? Did you have a pack? Like, what was your process of trying to get them on board?
yeah, I was emailing. And, from the beginning, I mean, our process has gotten much more streamlined now, but um, I was really just sending emails like, hey, can you like, can you do, these are ingredients. This is like, I wasn't even sending NDAs in the beginning, which I didn't realize was the thing. And now we do that, but was basically like, these are ingredients. This is how many end units I want, which is another thing. Like manufacturers kind of want to just know your kilogram or your bulk order. They don't really care about the end units in the beginning because it means nothing to them. But I was asking about that, if they could do the little one serving packets. Just was all over the place in what I was asking for. And I think that's probably what made it harder, was you don't, it's clear you don't really know what you're talking about. It makes things a little bit harder. But I was just, searching online and picking up the phone and sending emails, um, for the most part. And uh, yeah, asking about like minimum order quantities.
And did you have an idea from a financial perspective where you needed to be? So if someone, manufacturer saw that you're obviously new to this and thought, we can make, some quick money here. Yeah, we'll do it and just charge you a ridiculous amount. Did you know roughly, had you worked out sort of your margins, or were you just sort of, this was the step one?
Yes, yeah, I'd worked out our margins. I had a rough estimate of like unit costs for like our bulk pouches versus our single serve, of where I wanted to net out. There was definitely some things that like I probably didn't think about or account for, like freight at the end of getting your product. Like you need to kind of add that um into your costs. Were fulfilling for ourselves at the time. Now we're not. So like that needs to be accounted into our cost of goods. Um, some this like one of the other things that we do that not a lot of at least that I'm aware of, supplement brands do, is we don't really do turnkey manufacturing. We do what's called tolling jobs. or a tolling job, which would be like what the co-packer would call it, but where we supply all of the ingredients. So it's kind of an extra step on our end. Like we're, doing all of those individual transactions with the suppliers, and then they're shipping to our manufacturer versus having the manufacturer supply everything themselves. And the reason for that is at the time, I couldn't find anyone that would allow us to work with the suppliers that we had wanted to work with from the woman that gave us like her entire list. So working that way was the only way that allowed me kind of oversight into what ingredients we're using, where they're coming from, being able to get all of the certificates of analysis of every ingredient beforehand, and then pass it off to the manufacturer to blend and pack and do all of that. So that also made it like, I'm sure that the manufacturers were like, why is this girl doing this way? This is annoying. So, but yeah.
So has that changed now, that whole process? Or what, I suppose a better question is, what's changed between that very first order and now? What sort of things have actually changed? Do you still do it all? Do you still bring all of the ingredients in? What have you changed anything since then, or has it just been continuing as it was?
Yeah. Our since we can do slightly larger orders now, our co-packer kind of lets us work with the suppliers that we want to work with. I think there's like maybe two that we no longer work with that we did in the beginning. So we've gotten in a bit of a more comfortable place with that. And it definitely takes some of the load off of our end of having to supply everything ourselves.
And so you've got this first order, and you've factored in all of your costs and margin and everything like that. How close were you in terms of your forecast versus your actual, in terms of, this is what I thought was going to happen on this first batch order, and this is where we actually ended up? Did you end up about what you thought? Better, worse?
In terms of what we paid, or of like sales?
In terms of like your, from that very first order, in terms of what it ended up costing you, what you thought it was going to cost you, and then what you ended up making versus what you thought you were going to make. Was it, let's say, like, was advertising actually lower or more than you expected? Like, where did you end up based on what you initially thought in your forecast?
Yeah. I think we definitely ended up paying a bit more than we thought we were going to, because there was like very random, random things I didn't consider. Something that needed to be I didn't realize or factor in the cost for testing, which is like a couple $100s per test, freight costs and stuff like that. So I think our COGS were slightly higher by like a few cents maybe per unit, maybe 10 cents at most. Like once you spread it across all the units, it's not like that bad. But in terms of like forecasted revenue and all that, I would say we definitely didn't do as well out of the gate as I thought. Thought things were just going to fly off the shelf, and I think every first-time business owner realizes that pretty quickly, is it's not an overnight success. But yeah, we were not that far off, I don't think.
Yeah, good. I think you're right. I think everyone sort of thinks make it and then good. The rest of it will be job
Build
done.
it and they will come. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much harder in reality, isn't it? But
yeah.
So once you had your product, and I guess at this point you're quite excited, maybe a little bit nervous. You've got your packaging lined up. You didn't have any. It doesn't sound like you had any major issues. What was your go-to-market strategy? What channels did you use, or was it literally just like, we're just going to do word of mouth here? Did you do samples? Like, what was your way of initially starting to build an audience for your product?
Yeah, it was pretty much word of mouth because we didn't have a ton of marketing budget. So we did, like I was able to, just with having been in the fitness community, we did a lot of partnerships with fitness trainers and influencers, kind of like affiliate programs, ambassador programs, did samplings at gyms. We had gotten like some smaller retail opportunities with, we were in Urban Outfitters, Free People, Anthropology, that I got myself basically off cold emails, just emailing incessantly. So it was very scrappy of like, I know who my customer is, I know where they are, but I need to be very, scrappy about how we're going to get product to them. And a lot of it too that I realized with e-com too, and I think it's getting harder and harder, is um, like food products or supplement products on e-commerce, is you have to find a way to make it like, you have to drive trial. A lot of people are very hesitant to purchase a 30-day supply of something they've never tried, let alone subscribe to something they've never tried. So that was kind of, we were trying to get crafty of like how much weak product we could give away, to ideally bring people back to purchase.
Yeah, yeah. I do, or I did from time to time do reviews of people launching sites. And because of the whole, in the last, I think I'd say in the last year, subscriptions have been such a buzzword in e-commerce. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think I've seen a lot of one product startups straight out of the gate just pushing subscriptions online before they've even launched, like lots of different products that I've reviewed and websites that I've reviewed. And it's, you're right, especially the first time that someone's interacting with your brand considering a purchase, it's so unlikely that they're going to walk straight into a subscription even for a month, 6 months, forget about it. They're going to want to try that product.
Right.
And does that, I guess that scales up, right? That doesn't change even though you're in a different place now. Do you still have that same challenge? Is that still kind of the, what is actually, yeah, take us through the purchase journey of like your typical customer.
Yeah. Yeah. We, our like e-commerce offering, we have like a one-time or a subscription option. I don't often see, I feel like I used to see it a lot, and then people have kind of backed off of it, of like a subscription only. But I knew I didn't want to do that. I think that's too much, way too much friction, for somebody to try the product. So we have about like wavering between like a 45 to 48% retention rate, or returning customer rate. And like this past month, I think 60, maybe just under 60% of our orders were subscription. So, we're not a massive business, we're still growing, but like the more I realized how much power we had in our like retention and customers coming back and people really seeing the benefit of the product, the more we start to think about like how we can make that even stronger and more intentional. It's like, okay, luckily we have a really good product that people like, but we weren't really doing anything for retention at the time. So now we're looking at that more closely.
Yeah, and of course, subscription businesses often fetch, a magnitude of difference in terms of valuations.
Hmm.
If you do sell it, or you just have the business valued, so it's often desirable. But it just fits so well with sports supplements. So,
Yeah.
what's your primary channel at the moment? Is it e-commerce?
Yes.
Okay, and are
Yep.
you in any retail?
We are in, so the Anthro Free, so they're all the same company, Anthro, Free People, and Urban Outfitters. We are in like a few wellness, natural markets in New York, in Denver, in LA. And we're actually in the middle of some category reviews now for some larger grocers that we're submitting to, which would happen in the next 6 to 8 months when we would be placed if we get in. So definitely, I think everybody's feeling the pressures of, Facebook advertising not really being efficient anymore, and all the iOS changes. And luckily, I think we're in a unique place in that we didn't invest a lot of money there to begin with, so we haven't been beholden to it. It's like you can't miss what you've never had. So we always, like, we still do, retargeting and some prospecting there, but it's not the majority of our strategy. We're really, retail, I think, is going to be super important for us for distribution, and I'm excited to see where that stuff goes. But yeah, it's I think every like food or supplement brand should be omni-channel, but that's just me.
I'm with you on that for sure. I think you've got such a strong advantage as well. You've got gyms, you've got specialist retailers, like you said. One place that I do think could do better, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but in the UK, are supermarkets, which is where 90% of people do their weekly and monthly shops.
Yeah.
Just do such a bad job of placing health and fitness supplements, like from pre-workout to bars. They're either in like the pharmacy aisle, or they're in they're just in such weird places. They just haven't really got to grips over here with where to put it, unless you
Yeah.
pay for like an end of aisle piece or like a promotional piece. It's really difficult. But yeah, for sure, I think retail is on a bounce back, because primarily of social media and the downturn there. Can you give us any of your secret strategies in terms of anything else that's working for you other than social media?
Um, I mean, we really use affiliate a lot. We're starting to do more TikTok, and by we, I mean me. It's just me on our channel right now. But I know a lot of founders that swear by it, and there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's free. I mean, the organic side is at least. So that's something that we're testing out. We're also on Amazon. So I think that's an important channel. We get a lot of organic traffic and orders that way. We're not really spending all that much there. Um, yeah, I wish I had some like brand new secret channel that
I
we're
don't think that
using.
exists, but
I know. It's like everyone's like, what's the new strategy? I don't think anybody knows yet. We're all just where I think the strategy is like you can't have one strategy anymore. It's got to be diversified and thinking about different things. I mean, I'm excited for like it's interesting that you bring that up about the aisles in the grocery store. And I mean, it's similar here too. Like if you walk into a CVS or a Walgreens, the pre-workout section is like hidden in the back, and there's like 3 products there that look like they have dust on. Like it's just like it's a very like dead category in that sort of retail. Whole Foods, on the other hand, has like a beautiful, like they've got the whole body. It's called Whole Body, is their whole supplements and wellness section. They have different standards for what they allow in terms of pre-workout, but like that's definitely a target partner for us, is because they do take so much care and they have that customer, that like health and wellness customer or fitness customer. But yeah, it's like we're trying to be strategic about um, what places we're in and how much they're devoting to driving revenue in that category. I certainly don't want to be in the back on a shelf in a CVS where they're not really putting a ton of effort towards their active nutrition category.
yeah, for sure. And you've got to put effort in to get people in there, right? So
Yeah.
if yeah, it's interesting you bring up Amazon then. So how strong is Amazon as a channel for you versus your e-commerce in terms of percentage? If you had to put a percent on it, what's the split in sales?
Yeah, I think it's probably like 15 to 20%. We honestly just got on there pretty recently. So and like we're just on it. Like we do FBA and all of that, but we're not doing any like pay per click or anything. We're just kind of letting the organic keyword stuff do its work. So it's not a huge focus right now, but it will be in the next coming years, especially once we start getting into bigger retail. It will kind of have to play a role.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And just going back to Facebook for a second, I think what that used to be able to offer was just like everyone's attention because everyone was there. And then they made it so easy for people to just carve up their audience and hit them with the ads. And that was a sort of a one-stop shop for whatever you needed. You know, we've got the audience here, just jump on. And I think where it's going next is just where's that attention gone? That attention still exists, just where is it? And where can you get in front of it? Sounds a bit like what you're saying. And retail's strong because you've got aisles. I think targeted retail like you're doing, but also on other podcasts, people have said things like buying newsletter spots, small newsletters. Just where are my people and where are they spending their attention? I sound like Gary Vee. And where can I get hold of them? I think that's sort of the age we're moving into, and the people that are going to win are going to be the people that can easily identify their audience and have a strong product fit with that audience, which you clearly do. So I think you'll do just fine. That's probably an advantage, if anything, because you're going to have less spend than some of like these other huge supplement brands that are just saturating the audience in some of the places that are obvious. So it'd be interesting to see where you go with it. How big is your team? How big is your operation now?
I'm only full time, and then I have a team of 3 freelancers, contractors. So
Yeah.
we're still small.
And what are their roles?
Content slash like social. I have someone on the operations side that helps manage the conversations with the manufacturer, and then influencer
Okay,
helps with
cool. And
like gifting.
what are your roles? What do you do every day?
A little bit of everything still. I mean, my my biggest thing is like retailer outreach and business development and partnerships and all of that, trying to move all of that forward while overseeing the rest. So, but that's kind of like I mean, it's what my background is in and what I've been good at and getting early partnerships going. So that's kind of where I focus the majority of my energy right now, at least.
What are your least favorite tasks that you have to do, but you just don't enjoy them?
um, Looking at our P&L, like anything with numbers. I used to be someone that was so um, scared of like the numbers, which is not a good thing to be. I had to very quickly force myself out of that and like look at them weekly and um, you know, you kind of like think you know what's going on and what you're spending and what's coming in, but until you have it like really on paper and are being very like scheduled about making updates and going in and seeing where things are at, it kind of doesn't exist until it's like that. So that is not something that I enjoy, but has made me a much better business owner. Sounds obvious, but I don't know why the numbers always scared me for a while, but it's much more scary to not know.
Yeah, I think you're one or the other. It seems to be you're either a numbers focused founder or a non-numbers focused founder. Uh,
Yeah.
Neither way is better, I think. But so that's where you are today. What do you think is going to get you to that next level? And do you know what that next level looks like? Do you have an idea of where you're going and when you'll be there?
Yeah, I think our next like our biggest thing is going to be whatever this next retail account is, like anchor account. I'm really excited about that. I think, transparently fundraising has been a nightmare in the environment that we're in right now. It's been really difficult. We've raised a little bit of money, but not as much as I would like to. So I'm kind of back to the grindstone with just being diligent and scrappy about working with what we have. Um, and having a big anchor account and getting into the right retailers, I think will be really propel us forward to be able to get to that next step.
And where did you look for that funding? Where did that come from in terms of not specifics, but where did you get that? Was that angel? Was it just friends and family? Was it loan? What was that?
Yeah, it's been a mix of things. I, early on was bootstrapping it myself, so a lot of my own funding. We then did an accelerator last year where we got some investment from that, tied to a VC firm there. And then recently just angels. So, and that's where I think I want to continue, you know, always fundraising, but talking to angels and getting, that's like where I think our business is so unique in that it's often kind of difficult to understand if you're not in the space, like someone like you who like really gets active nutrition and pre-workout and exactly what it is and who the consumer is. I think a lot of times with VCs we get bucketed in with like mud water or athletic greens, or there's this kind of feeling that there's no way that there can be more room for anyone else besides these people that are already, sometimes they'll compare us to like hydration brands and stuff, and I get that it's not far off, but it's so like to me, who's a core consumer and who knows this lane really well, there's really not anybody that's positioning the way that we are. And I enjoy and like working with angels and partners that like have that excitement, like they know exactly what I'm talking about, and there's that instant connection, which I just think is sometimes lost on the institutional side, but maybe someday.
I think so. I think from listening to Drew Fallon, a podcast that he did when he was talking about, they went on they went on Mad Rabbit. They are Mad Rabbit, but they went on Shark Tank. They got initial investment
Yeah.
there, and he still had to knock on like 30 plus doors. I think he said before he got someone that aligned with their vision and said yes. And it's exactly what you say. I mean, he got so many no's from these incredible investors. but it's just misalignment. You just got to get the people that get it. And
Yeah.
when you get those people, like I can see from what you've already said to us or to me, how obvious there is a gap in the market for exactly what you're doing. But yeah, I can also see the flip side of being like, oh, okay, it's a powder supplement that goes in a drink that makes you better at sport. Like if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
So I get it. Yeah, for sure. And do you guys see? I watch some fitness influencers in the US, and God, there's enough fitness influencers out there. That's got to be a huge channel for you guys. I guess finding the good ones is difficult, but what is it about putting the powder in your mouth and then the water? Like,
Ugh,
what the hell is that? They
the
all
dry
do it.
scooping.
Is that just a normal thing? When I saw that, I watched a YouTube video. I saw it. I thought it was insane. I was just like, what is he doing? And I tried it. It just made me cough everywhere. Can't believe it. I just thought that was like normal for you guys. Is that how people take it?
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, it was like it was a TikTok trend for the dry scooping pre-workout that people were doing. I think it sent some people to the hospital.
Oh,
It's
wow.
definitely, I mean, a lot of people do that. We 100% do not condone that sort of behavior. Um,
Seemed nuts to me.
yeah, no. It's that like there's that and that is a good example of the culture around that sort of product and how like different it is what we're trying to do is like that is why that market has been so targeted on the same people for so long is because that's the image that it puts forward and it scares the crap out of people. Like it doesn't need to be that intense. There are lots of fit people that want to be fitter, stronger, faster, more energized, and we're not talking to them because that is like kind of what's been out there and people see the word pre-workout and they think of that and they're like, oh, that's not for me. And so it's kind of a huge undertaking to like, position ourselves as not that when the
How do
word
you?
itself.
Sorry to jump in. This is the last
No,
big
yeah.
question before we get into a lightning round. But how do you communicate that? Because there is such a strong attachment. Pre-workout comes in a tub, comes in a packet, and it gives you energy. Like there's hugely strong connotations. So how do you go about communicating that? Have you delved into that?
Yeah, I mean, like, we've done so much work, um, the like, positioning ourselves as an alternative is kind of like a new thing in the last 8 months and where we've really seen things sort of stick alongside just constant storytelling, lots of, like, especially with advertising and how we're writing copy and connecting with the consumer is, like, illustrating especially like my story of being this person that saw that and was like, I don't want that, but I would like something for me and coming at it from a personal perspective and connecting with people, especially other women that know exactly what I'm talking about and are like, why is it so intense and overly masculine, this whole industry? Like there's a lot of fit girls that want something for them. Um, so it's a lot of that. In the early stages, it's like sometimes the founder is the brand a little bit. So as much as I actually don't really like being the face. I know that I kind of like have to because that is where we see, sort of the most uplift is like connecting stories and being able to share that experience and use case of why this is a better option.
And where are you able to share that at the moment? Is that happening on social media or is that where's that?
Mostly social. We're actually in the middle of like it's on our website, but I think it could be like so much clearer. It's kind of like hidden in our about page, but I want to be a bit more intentional with our website in the next few months. I try to do podcasts and like speaking about it as much as I can. Yeah, definitely social media channels, email, advertising. We kind of try to because there's so many, especially on Facebook. It's like how many ads I mean I'm in the funnel too of I'm getting retargeted by every supplement and health product and everything is very like try this, it has these three ingredients for these three benefits and it's very clinical and that's all important, but I think ours where we kind of see the lift is giving that little bit of like a personal touch or like giving someone a laugh even of like this is not your whatever pre-workout, like hear us out for a second. um that seems to work, and tell the story a bit more.
Yeah, I like that contrast. I like that you've got that clear vision, and from someone outside looking in, that is almost exactly how I would play it if I was you. Just in terms of riffing off that whole "we are not that, we are this," because that's just instantly interesting, isn't it? To go after that. Um, the website quickly. Then you're on Shopify, which is just a default choice. Who
Yep.
built it? How long did it take to build? Have you changed it much since that first build?
Yeah, we've changed it a good amount. We it's interesting, like we get a lot of questions about like if our site is custom or like who designed it or um, everything is very plug and play on our site. Just being transparent, like we have our our brand guidelines and our colors and our fonts and the way that we want things to look, but no one's like designed any wireframes or anything for us. Everything is just very standard Shopify. We worked with Audit, if you're familiar with them.
Sure am. Yeah.
Yeah, we worked with them on like a big sort of reframe and redesign last year, and have made just very like simple, front end updates from there. But in terms of like how long it took, I think that one took maybe 3 weeks. Um, because we kind of gave them everything that we already had and images and all of our brand look and feel. And yeah, it didn't take very long at all. I think that the one of the things I learned early, like our earliest website was we did work with a designer on that. Didn't spend a whole lot on it, but I quickly realized the how important it is to have like design front end and back end and CRO and like all of these things that if you're leaning too far into one and you neglect the other, like you can get into trouble. Like I think feel very strongly that if you're a brand that's just starting out and you don't have a ton of capital to invest in building the brand, you need to have a website that works and that converts people. And that is all that matters. And you kind of have to put your ego aside and like go with best practices. Simple things like, I think I found a stat the other day that was like the highest converting buttons are orange and blue. Like those are the colors that do the best. Is it's like a thing with consumers of they're just familiar with that layout and the button flipping colors. So like don't focus so much on making a beautiful website, like focus on getting those sales first and seeing how things operate and work. And then once you have um, a real customer base that's not going to freak out if you change the website, then you can kind of start making things prettier. But yeah, that would be my advice there.
I think that's right. There's an ongoing battle, which is shopping experience versus conversion rate optimization. And do you go for the thing that gets the most sales, or do you invest in a online shopping experience, which is anything really? But I guess when people say that, what they really mean is trying to reflect the idealism of their brand and the feeling of their brand into that online shopping experience. And I think some companies do it really well, but there is always that argument of how much does this really add versus the investment and time that we have to put in. And I'm now leaning towards in my career the companies that just go with simplicity, and I think the consumer is too, to a degree. I think at least in the recent times, a website has been much more about just processing a transaction and logistically choosing what you want rather than actually being sold to. And that might change now. Social media is dying a little bit, or at least Facebook and Instagram. um, who knows? But yeah, I think your website's great, and if it's
Thanks.
doing a good job, which I think the average is about 2% conversion rate. So if it's anywhere near or around there, you get companies spending upwards of £500,000 to get anywhere near that percent. So it's like, what are you doing? Who
Yeah.
knows?
And sometimes the sites with the like I've I'm actually like in a mastermind e-commerce course right now, and some of the that's all women and some of their conversion rates are like upwards of like 4 or 5%, and they've done virtually nothing. They have very cookie cutter standard Shopify templates, and like it's not to take away from, I think brand is so important. I'm a brand person myself, but you don't know what you don't know. So like get the sales first, get the data first, figure out what's working and what's not, and then kind of, I think, slowly try to add in more of that. And you can tell your story on so many platforms. Don't mess with your conversion rate.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's important. Right. I'm just going to jump into this lightning round because
Yeah.
we haven't got much time left, unfortunately, because it's been really interesting. What I would love to do is revisit this with you in 18 months' time and see where you are and see how this is all rolled out for you, because it sounds like you're in the absolute thick of growth and working stuff out. And it would be really interesting to catch up with you and see where you got to, especially with retail. We had Chris Mead on recently, and his story in terms of growing through retail is just nuts. Just
I'm on his
landed one, then
newsletter.
the next, then the next. Oh, just insane. And he's got the same kind of hustle that you've got. I hear you're like kind of the same person in terms of like just get out there, send the emails, get shit done, not, you know, overthink it, just get out and get the output going. And that's exactly what he did as well. And obviously they did a great job with that. Okay, so if not doing what you're doing now with the business, what do you think you'd be? Would you still be in advertising? Do you think you'd be a full-time PT? Like, where do you think you would have been?
Definitely not in advertising. It's hard to think about going and working in a normal corporate environment again once I've been doing this for so long. I think the me now, if I wasn't doing this, I would want to be some sort of like fractional CMO or consulting for a bit for other CPG brands, either in fitness or in food or something like that. Like I think I'll always, you know, want that, regardless where Aila ends up. I'll kind of always want to be in this space and provide value. I think that's probably what I'd be doing. That or investing. I do want to do that too.
What do you mean investing? Just
like I do want to be
an
angel investor someday.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I get that. How many web domains have you got?
Oh, 4?
Yeah.
I think 4, yeah.
Are they dormant sort of future, or are they just like in use? What are, like, you don't have to name them, but what are they for?
No, yeah, I have I have 2, like our old one, our current one, and then I have 2 of just like random ideas I had that I went and bought.
Cool. You'll end up paying for those for the rest of your life, no doubt. Whether you use them or not, who knows? Okay, so if it wasn't pre-workout supplements, two questions here. If it wasn't what you're selling now, but it's still in the same space, what would you sell, or would you like to sell? That's the first one.
I don't know. It would probably, this one I didn't have a good answer for this when I read this question, actually. I think it would probably be like something in fitness tech, like AI or VR, something like that.
Do you have a Whoop? You whooping it up?
Yeah, I don't have it on right now, but I do. Which is,
again, you were never supposed to take it off.
No. Mine always like disconnects from my Bluetooth, so I take it off and I have to like shower or whatever, and then I forget. I'm not a good consumer of it.
No, but they do have a few things they could improve on. But yeah, I think I would probably be in some kind of either in fitness equipment or some kind of fitness tech for sure. But fitness tech seems tough. That's a tough gig.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to skip some of these, but let's just do. Do you back up your Shopify store? I have to ask you that one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I just learned about that recently.
What app do you use?
What do we use? I can check really quick. I don't remember.
It's a risky question because the sponsor of this show is an app that does this. It's either going to go one way or the other. Will it make the edit?
I don't know if I want to say.
So it begins with R. We're in the clear. If it doesn't, don't worry.
Okay. I'm going to look really quick. No, it does not. It does not begin with R. So we're not going to say it.
I'm joking. Don't say the name. Don't say the name. It should be Rewind. She's going to change it straight away after this. No, I'm joking. Right. So the final question then.
Just kidding. I do have that. I was looking at something else. It is Rewind. Yeah.
Hey. I swear. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. I don't know if you're covering or not, but that's good. Okay. Final question. Sorry, I know you've got to go. Is how much money, and you just work out for the rest of your life on a beach somewhere doing whatever you want to do. You can angel invest, you can do whatever you want, but how much money in the bank, and I need a number, for you to be like, cool, I'm done and I'm just going to do whatever I want?
And to like not need income ever again?
No, it's just a number for you. Like, what would you need to see in your bank account to be like,
Oh,
that's me, you know, I'm going to go do whatever I need to do?
10 million.
I like it. Why 10?
I don't know.
Feels like a good number. Feels like
a good number. Yeah.
Do you know what? I think
runway.
Everyone has said 10 apart from one person. That's crazy. That is actually
Was
crazy.
the other person higher or lower?
Much higher.
Okay.
Like extremely high. But yeah, amazing. I appreciate your time so much. And I can't wait to edit this episode and get it out there and everyone to listen to it. So thank you very much. And we wish you all the best. I think everyone's going to be rooting for you. And as soon as it's in the UK, please hit us up because I will certainly be parading it everywhere that I go.
Yeah, I definitely will. This was really fun. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. The fact that you're still here at the end of this episode tells me that, one, you must have enjoyed it, and two, you're probably as big of an e-commerce geek as I am. Thank you for sticking around, and I just want to give a special thanks to Rewind, Clearco and Vixer for sponsoring this episode. You can find more information and the offers that are associated with those companies in the show notes below. Please also, if you haven't already, go to ecom.gold and subscribe to Gold Club. You'll get alerts about upcoming episodes. You'll get extra content like playbooks from each of the people and guests that we have on the show. And you'll also get access to some of the exclusive content that we have coming up. And finally, do share the show with your friends. Give us a review. It really helps us to build our audience. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take it easy, and we'll see you next time.